Hi, I'm Jonathan J, and welcome to this very interesting video all about buying a business. It's behind the scenes of my Dealmakers live event. It's a panel discussion, a group of business buyers, seasoned deal makers, answering questions posed by the audience. And there are some great questions. I know that you're going to enjoy this. If you're curious about buying a business, if you are wondering whether it's something that you could do, then I've put together a brand new training that's going to be absolutely perfect for you. There is a link in the video description below. Click the link, watch the training, and find out whether buying a business is something that you could do. And if you like this type of video, remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notifications bell, and you will receive a notification every time I release a new video on buying a business. So I thought what we'd do is a quick fire panel discussion. I'm going to spring this on my people in the room. Would you, I'm kind of putting you under the sort of pressure you can't say no to. Would you like to step up to the front and just up on the stage here, James as well, Alison, Phil, would you like to come up? Is there anyone else that's here? Yes, James, yeah. I think Danny had to go. We haven't got anyone else. Yeah, okay, great. So, this is your last opportunity to ask some questions. And you can address them to someone in particular, or just to the panel, and someone will volunteer a response for you, an answer for you. What have we got? What would you like to know? Yes, what's your question? And I'll repeat it back for everyone.
We've heard a lot of stories that are really positive, really great. I guess the question I've got is, what's the biggest mistake you made through the journey?
Oh, that's a great question. What is the biggest mistake that you've made? All right, so think carefully. Biggest mistake.
I think I might have mentioned mine already this morning. That was stepping off the system. To think, actually, that deal is so nice, I will go completely 100% money up front, take 100% of the risk myself. So stopping following the system was my biggest wake-up.
Biggest mistake that I've made, probably recruitment. Apart from that, don't think I've made mistakes. We've pulled out of deals because it was going to affect us. We've sort of mitigated our risks. So,
I think I've probably spent about 30 years making mistakes on a regular basis. But in the context of this, I think overpaying and paying up front a few years ago for one or two businesses, knowing that you could defer consideration, but kind of thinking that's what other people did. And learning that was a metric to use, to the point now where I'd only do it that way. I don't ever do it any other way.
I think mine goes back to the golf club and hotel, and I don't necessarily think that was a mistake, but how we structured it probably was. When you buy a business, you should look at how you can secure whatever money you put in. We put a charge on the company probably too late, which was then challenged by the administrators and left us worse off in the process because they were able to challenge payments that I'd made back to me or back to other companies that I owned. Whereas if we put the charge on quicker, we wouldn't necessarily have been in that position. So it's always about, if you go and buy a company, always look at how you can protect that and put a secure charge on, put a debenture on, and protect that whatever you put into it, just make sure you protect it, and just be careful if you are concerned about it, how much and when you take cash out, because any payment that you take out 2 years prior to an insolvency can be challenged. And one of the things we've discussed in the inner circle before is making notes of why you've done stuff and when. And I now take a ridiculous amount of notes about why I do stuff, just because it might seem stupid today, but if I'm asked in a year's time, why did I send that money to that person, or why did I do that process, at least I can go back to my notes and go, haha, that's why, and here's the notes that prove it. And I think that's a really important takeaway, is just trying to protect yourselves when you, at the moment, you might think there's no risk.
Yeah, and that charge requires at least 6 months to harden, doesn't it? Otherwise, it can be, as you said, can be challenged. Yeah.
And also just following on from that, before I get to some of my many mistakes, with the deferred consideration, I also have a spreadsheet for every payment, every time an issue's come up, where we have then taken it off the end of the deferred consideration, because I don't want it ever to be challenged. I thought I was getting paid 5 years worth of this. Yes, but all these things have now come off. And semi-regularly, 6 months, 12 months, send that list through. So it's on email, so it's there to be able to be challenged. So that's just an aside, not only on what you're doing, but if you're going down a deferred consideration route, you keep track of it. You'd think they would want to keep track of it as well, but it's not always the case. So yeah, many mistakes. One recent one, and I was talking to my friends over here, that actually I love making mistakes. I love our team making mistakes. I encourage them. I tell them about my mistakes, which is an unusual environment when we're at school. Who's old enough to have a red cross and a sad face and a see me on their papers? Jamie, I know you did. So they don't do that so much now. I don't think you're even allowed to mark in red pen. It's green pen, right. And everyone wins a medal on sports day. So times are changing, but that old bad way of making a mistake is really bad. Is no. You know, we've all made mistakes. We've just gone through some of the many, but we learn from that. And our job now is to share that with you, especially on the mastermind group. We share that in the inner circle groups and so on and so forth. So a couple that I've made is trying to implement things too quickly, change the culture too quickly, but not being embarrassed or ashamed to say, actually, no, that didn't work, so let's change it back. Because it was something I was trying to implement, and it was around systems and processes. It wasn't an EPOS system, it was something else, but we weren't ready for that yet. So that was one mistake, but we're now, having done more research and learned from that mistake, implementing another system to combine all of the businesses so that we're all on the same page. So learn from that mistake. There's a great book out there by John C. Maxwell called Sometimes You Win and Sometimes You Learn. Never lose.
Yeah, I like that. Nice one, yeah. I'm interrupting your video with a very important message. If you are watching a video like this, it's probably because you're serious about buying a business. But watching free videos on YouTube will only take you so far. You need to take the next step. And the next step is a link that's somewhere on the screen up at the top, which takes you through to our free video training. There's no cost whatsoever. You watch the free video training and that will give you some of the essential basics that you need. Now, if you get value from that, then I would invite you to be part of my next Fast Track program. Now, the Fast Track program has been running for a couple of years now. We've had nearly 3,000 people around the world on the Fast Track program, and it's a Zoom program that you can attend from anywhere. It's broadcast from my living room to your living room, where I will teach you what you need to know to go and buy your first business. And there's a Q&A section at the end of each of the training sessions, so you can ask me all of your questions. Now, if you get great value from that and you're really serious about buying a business, then there's my mastermind program, a 12-month program where we hold your hand through the business buying process so that you can buy your first company. And when you have, I'll invite you into our inner circle, which is exclusively for people who've bought their first business. So that's what we've got lined up for you. It's up to you whether you take the next step. Anyway, back to the video.
Right, I've written it here. So, as I understand, most of you start your acquisition journeys during and after the mastermind, your involvement with the mastermind class or the group. So, how did you make use of the mastermind group for your first acquisitions?
So many ways. We haven't got another 4 days to go through that, but one thing that I'll say, and then I'll pass the microphone down, for me, the Jim Rohn quote that Jonathan mentioned yesterday, you're the average of the 5 people you spend your most time with. I love coming to these events, whether I'm up here or down there, it doesn't make no difference, because I'm in a room full of people that are giving up their weekend, their precious time, to be surrounded by other people who are excited about doing business, doing deal. I mean, Phil I just love him. He's infectious. So I want to spend more time around him, and because he's in both inner circle groups, I get to spend that time with him. But I want to be around people that are making deals, that are making mistakes and learning from them and sharing. I now want to do some insolvency stuff because of what John's talked about. I want to do some manufacturing stuff because of what Danny spoke about the other day, and so on and so forth. So who are you spending the most time with? And it doesn't mean that you cut off people with their family or spouses or whoever, but you might just want to reduce some of that time down to free up some of your time to spend with other like-minded people that are going to help support and encourage you along your journey.
I think I'd just echo that. Asking stupid questions. I think someone said before there isn't a stupid question, and it's lonely at the top, isn't it? We all have bitchy, moany times that we all just want to rant and rave at someone, and you can't do that to someone that's underneath you. You can only do it above you, and if there's no one above you, you can't do it. And sometimes, I certainly know I've made some great friends, and we all moan at each other, and it gets it off our desk. It means that we're not negative in the workplace instead. So, yeah, asking stupid questions just because there's always someone in a group this size that's pretty much done everything, and therefore just because you haven't done it or you don't know the right answer, the stuff like the WhatsApp groups and stuff that we're all part of, there's always a question being asked, and there's always 10 different answers that you can possibly go with, and then it's your choice what you want to do. And I think just having that community spirit of helping each other is value for money, if nothing else.
Yeah, I'd echo all that. I do quite a bit of work with things like Help to Grow, which is funded by the government, and working with peer-to-peer. And what you find is the vast majority of business owners, as you said, it's a very lonely place, you know, because it's a very small group of people, as I think John said yesterday. And then the amount of people that own a business and then go and buy one is an even smaller group. It's an ever-decreasing pyramid, isn't it? So you're in a very, very small group. So it's a lonely place anyway in business, and even more lonely, I think, if you're buying them at times. So having that peer pressure and peer group is a great thing. And I think the thing that I've always taken out of association with Jonathan is that sort of peer network. Over and above him personally and what he gives out is what everybody else contributes, isn't it? Which, you know, what better way is there to do it? So it's all good fun.
For me, I've met loads of good people that are class friends, as friends now. People that I speak to every now and again, I'm able to phone them up, the likes of Gavin. I speak to Gavin regular, Alison, Christina. There's loads of them. No, I mean, Steve McLeavy, he's not here today, but Alex's pal's here. Yeah, as I say, we're all here and we all learn off of one another because nobody knows everything. You know, you can only know so much. So the fact that we've got 5 heads up here, it gives you 5 chances to solve the issue, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, good point.
So it's going to be a very similar message. I consider myself to be quite lucky because I have a very supportive husband who's very entrepreneurial. My brother is the same. But I remember in one of the YouTubes, I think it was, you were interviewing somebody, and they talked about how quite often British culture just now, it's not a great place to be if you're entrepreneurial, and where do you celebrate your successes? And I consider this room is very much where you celebrate your successes, because it isn't with the people down the pub, it isn't with most of your friends, but it's somewhere where people understand. If you own a business nowadays, I think you're considered to be a fat cat. And a fat cat is not a nice term for most of the general public, even though actually they don't really understand what it means. Yeah, I know. I've been losing some too. So, but I can say the term fat cat and we can all have a good giggle about it. And that's what this place is about. It's about supporting everybody and actually having a place where when you do have a win, everybody applauds you. It's lovely.
And but you haven't mentioned our dinners, our nights out.
Very true. And so when you do come down for the 90-day thing, make sure you have time in the evening as well. I remember when we first started doing some of the live sessions again, I had a bout of COVID, so I couldn't go down. And I'll tell you, that moment where everybody stood up and went up for the cups of tea, and how many people have you chatted to while you were having a cup of tea? when they stood up and went out for lunch and you're left at home, those dinners, that time with people afterwards is lovely, because that's when the relationship really starts bonding.
So we do the days typically in Richmond upon Thames, and if you've been to Richmond, it's a small town, and in the town there's an Italian restaurant called Sebastian's. Sebastian's are very accommodating. When we phone up and say there's 25 people that want to come to dinner in an hour's time, can you move the tables together for us? And we've had some incredible evenings there, haven't we? Which I go home after dinner, but I don't believe everyone goes home after dinner. I'm not going to look at anyone when I say that.
You're not pointing any elbows, Jonathan, no.
Yeah. So great. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Good. Hi.
In my sort of day-to-day world, I've mixed with a lot of exited successful entrepreneurs, and they tend to get involved in angel investing, which is like investing in fast growth tech businesses, often fintech, that sort of thing. And the valuations of these businesses, even if they've got no revenue, can be multi-millions. In fact, biotech, it can be tens of millions for something which is like really could be hit or miss. I mean, all of the stuff you're doing is obviously very impressive. It's not fashionable, right? It's kind of very unfashionable. It's value investing, not tech investing, not growth. I mean, I'm just interested to know your view about how you'd value a business like, I don't know, Ocado or Uber, these sort of like huge businesses that have massive valuations but are actually loss-making.
I mean, it's pretty easy, isn't it? If you look at the destruction of the markets, Kazoo's down 99.99% in what, a 12-month period. Those that invested 2 years ago in the markets did very well. My pension went up 250% in a year. It went down 50% last year. I think the days of ridiculous valuations on stuff is gone. I don't personally feel like I'm ever going to want to invest in something on a stupid valuation. I want to get value out of what I invest in. I want to be able to touch it, feel it, and know that there's something there. The company I used to work for got acquired by Uber, but unless it's tangible, I mean, I personally would just never get involved in it anyway. And I think most people in this room, fair enough, fair play to you if you're at the level to go and do angel investing into biotech and everything on stupid valuations, but I think I'd rather take a punt on something I could touch and get a return on it than put 10 punts in and hope that I get one back. That seems a bit of a lottery, and I play the lottery, but I don't seem to win, so.
Sorry for interrupting your video, but I wanted to introduce you to a great lawyer in the UK who can get your deals done for you. He's worked for 50 of my mastermind clients in the last few months alone. His name is John Andrews, and I've got his details right here in my little black book of contacts. You can phone him on 0345 241 2494, or you can email him on johnandrews.deallawyer@jmw.co.uk. If you want someone who can get a deal done, he is your guy. So let's get back to the video.
I think one of the things that hasn't perhaps been discussed enough is this, to come to your question about safe investing and what John was saying. So most sectors, however low the multiples, have this graduated incremental number. So, times 1, times 2, times 3, or thereabouts, and then up to 50, 100, 1 million times. But if you take a graduated approach like Phil is doing and acquire high volume entities, that valuation will just naturally climb. Not the multiple will just naturally climb. That's the way the world works because of the funding system. So these buy and builds are really quite straightforward and quite risk-free if you're careful and you're looking at real assets, as John said. So regardless of how you buy them or where you buy them from or how you source them, it is a matter of fact that if you've got 4 or 5 things doing not too diverse, and even if they're very diverse, as long as they're in the same group, your multiples will climb as a net result. And I think Jonathan explains that very well on the Mastermind course. But it's a matter of fact. So you haven't really got too much to lose if you're careful.
You know, I think for me as well, being here, and I was on the stage this morning and now, but I'm listening to everyone. And, you know, the bubble bursts for a reason, and maybe it's doing the same again in the marketplace. But what we're trying to do and what we're trying to build, albeit all very different, and not all bricks and mortars and things like that, is to build a business or a group of businesses that have value and meaning together, that we can then do whatever we want with it. What it does give you is options. And have we all worked a 9 to 5 at some point? You might not have done, John, but yeah. But you know, we've all worked a 9 to 5. I you know, have to put my holiday request in with everyone else's, and I get 20 days, and that's it. And if I'm sick, I might or might not get paid, and so on and so on and so on. We've all got options, you know. Some people are taking a small deal fee out on day one, and treating yourself and treating your friends and treating your family. Whereas we could never do that working for somebody else to the degree that we have. So the internet ones, the TikTok valuations and things like that. Actually, talked about TikTok earlier, didn't we? So as a funeral director with a TikTok account, does that make sense? I don't do the funny dances and things like that. The first video I posted got 780,000 views. And one of our later ones got 1.2 million views. And what was nice about that was the views, but what was even nicer was the comments, the openness that we could share through the comments of, that's very respectful, could I do that for my family, and blah, blah, blah. The reason I share that isn't to boast about the figures or the views, but the reason I share that is, if I can do that as a funeral director, what's stopping any of you doing that? I would challenge any of you to not be able to do that in your own sector, in your own industry as well. There's always going to be some fun valuations out there. There's always going to be some headlines. But for me, I think for us, we're trying to build that sort of firm, solid foundation that we can then either group together and has a high value to sell, or gives you more options later down the line. So, it's good.
Would it be really bad to say, I now have this vision of your staff team doing this wee song and dance in front of a coffin and somebody popping up halfway through to join in on TikTok? I'm really, really sorry.
That's not what we do.
A skeleton.
Not everyone could have a TikTok account.
I also just to contribute, I think we're interested in cash flow. That's, you know, you can put your money into an investment, and it can, you know, if you were an early investor in Apple, oh my goodness, Amazon, it'd be incredible, wouldn't it? But there's a lot of chance there. You know, you might say there's a degree of almost gambling. You could lose it, you might win. With this, there is greater security and there's cash flow, so you don't have to wait for other people to spend your investment wisely and get a return and an IPO and all of those things. You can actually generate cash from month one if you buy that solid, profitable business. You can generate that cash from day one. So it's a different. It's quite often we say ugly businesses, beautiful profits. And at the end of the day, you know, our requirements are around, you know, feeding ourselves and our families and doing things that we couldn't do before. And you can get that from business investment at this level. I'm sure you can at that level, but it's outside of my range of experience and probably for you guys as well. Yeah, great. Okay, we need a microphone. Where have I left my mic? Thank you. Thanks. Question for the panel.
Today I decided to write a book, and I bought a audio recorder. So in the future, whatever I say will be recorded. I change it to a book. So my question to you guys, are you willing to write a book about your story? Thank you.
That's an interesting one. I've actually thought about it a couple of times, but my story would be made up of some of the books that I've read rather, that, you know, like the Kim Kiyosaki's and trying to inspire other women and all the rest of it. But I have thought about it, but I'm not sure if I'm ready to do that yet. Come on, Mr. Transport.
Yeah, I will write a book. When I'll get time to do it, I don't know. Probably in a couple of years' time, but yeah, I plan on writing a couple of books.
I don't know about writing a book. I do keep a fairly detailed series of diaries and have done for many, many years. So I've got lots of learning experiences. So I think maybe sitting on a beach one day in the future, having gone through the exit plan, I think maybe then I might think about compiling it, but who knows?
It's done. Ta-da, news. So when we lost the golf club, I tried to make sure I wrote every lesson down that I learned, because I didn't want to go through that process and not come out the other end with something tangible. And so it started off as the 18 holes of golf and explaining how it transitioned over the 18 chapters effectively. It's since changed to when it goes wrong. And so that's in the process of being edited at the moment, talking about the failures and the lessons that I've learned over the time. And I'm hoping it'll ring true with a lot of entrepreneurs over the next 12 months as businesses are teetering on the edge. But hopefully the outcome of it is very much going to be there is life after a failure and you can move on again. So we're expecting that to be released in the next few months. But yeah, so it's not far off.
And if you want a signed copy, you need to join the mastermind group.
I thought Jonathan was buying them all for everyone.
I think I might have a chapter in your new book.
Yes.
So yes is coming. I'm also working on another book, and I've got several titles in my head that I want to work on. For me, reading, listening to audiobooks. Again, I was talking to people that my car is a mobile library. I don't listen to the music or to the news. Definitely not the news. I listen to podcasts, audiobooks. Been fortunate to be on podcasts, have my own podcast as well. And it's a way of learning from other people's mistakes. That's why I love autobiographies and different things as well. So I think, yes, definitely, I'd love to write a book. I may have been encouraged a little bit earlier on today to do that as well. And to really impart the little knowledge, the lessons learned, you know, the failures, the mistakes, so that other people don't have to make those same mistakes as well.
Amazing. Let's give our Dealmakers a fantastic round of applause. Thank you so much, guys. I am proud of you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.